And now for our feature presentation.
You're listening to the JB and Goldwater Show. Live, loud, and online.
He's going to go into the end zone.
Puts it up. Yes! There goes Davis. Oh, my God. Davis is going to run it all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game.
American Pharoah, it's finally the one. American Pharoah has won the Triple Crown.
And Barnes hits one high. It's a deep. It is out of here. Fly ball into right field. She is gone.
Unbelievable! A home run for Gibson, and the Tigers have won the game 5-4. I don't believe what I just saw.
Here are your hosts, Jamie Bradford and Darren Goldwater.
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesvw.com. You can find us at jbandgoldwatershow.com. That's Darren to the right of your screen. I am Jamie, and you can watch every day on the Twitter.
On the Twitter,
the Facebook, the YouTube, and the Periscope. You can listen on the Podbean app. That's all free. It's all available as well at jbandgoldwatershow.com. He is at Darren Goldwater. I am at Sports Radio JB, and across all social media platforms collectively, of course, we are at JB and Goldwater. It is a beautiful Monday afternoon here. We air live, of course, from the low country of South Carolina, so wherever you may be listening, we hope your weather's as good as ours. We'd still like it to be a little bit cooler. It was perfect Saturday at the ball game up in Columbia, which we're going to get to here in a moment. The text line, the phone lines are both open, 843-321-8893. If you've got something to say and you can't call, you can text it, 843-321-8893, and we'll try to get your comments into the program here shortly. At 12:30, Wes Mitchell with Gamecock Central. He is set to join us today. Carolina takes care of Auburn this weekend, and they're back to 500, 2-2 here to start the 2020 football season with a trip to Baton Rouge on the horizon. At 1:30 today, Reggie Merriweather, former Clemson tailback, current sideline reporter, he'll step in and join us. The Tigers went to Atlanta this weekend and completely dismantled Georgia Tech, to put that more than politely. That was a debacle of all debacles. We have a bunch of college football to get to. We've got a bunch of NFL news to get to this afternoon as well. And we've got plenty of baseball to get to as well, and that's where we'll start it here. The Braves run ended 4-3 last night, and it is over. The Dodgers and the Rays, of course, now into the World Series. We've all seen it. We all know what happened. And obviously, Darren, the main conversation surrounding Atlanta was that base running gaffe early in the game. So let me tell you what I saw there as the baseball man that I am. Mm-hmm. Let me tell. All right, so you got runners on second and third, right? Do you agree that that's where they, quote, probably lost the game?
That was certainly their biggest mistake, yes.
Yeah, because
yes.
I don't think – you can't say that's why they lost the game. But that's where it started to turn for them.
Yeah, if you're going to point at one thing that the Braves did that helped cost them the game, that's certainly it.
Yeah. So here's what happens, right? All right, so you have runners on second and third. You do have a shift, and you've got the third baseman playing more towards short and deep. He was not playing in, and he wasn't playing even, which would mean with the bag. So he's deep. And you've got Markakis who slaps one to that side, right? All right. So what do you do there? All right. So you have – what you shouldn't do is run. That's number one. That's number one. You shouldn't run, especially with what the score is, the situation is, and things like that. Now,
you got to see the ball.
Yeah, you have to see it. You have to see the ball. If the ball's hit up the middle and the middle's deep, you go. But that's not where it was. It was more towards the third baseman. So obviously it was a bad read right off the rip from Dansby Swanson at third. All right, so that's number one. You got a bad read. All right, now what do you do next? Well, Austin Riley played it absolutely perfect at first. He didn't go because the ball was hit in front of him. So if the ball's in front of you, you don't move. And he didn't. He actually worked back to the bag, which is smart. But Dansby took off. Well, if you take off there, you just go ahead and go. Go ahead and commit and go, because you need to force the third baseman to field the ground ball, to make a throw. You need to force the catcher to catch it and the catcher to tag you. 4 things need to happen on that play. So if you commit, even though you made the mistake, you go ahead and go. Field it, throw it, catch it, tag. 4 things have to happen, and the likelihood of those happening is pretty good. They're big leaguers. They all do it. But that ball could have been airmailed. It could have been skipped. The catcher could have dropped it. He could have tried to force a throw because Dansby can run a little bit, and he's forcing a perfect throw, and the throw does probably need to be close to perfect in that instance. So that's mistake number 1. He did not commit and obviously hung himself up there for a second. All right, so when that happens, you go back to Riley. All right, well, when he hangs himself up, you need to go ahead and just take the next bag. You just got to go. The only time you would not do that is if somebody on the backside of the play is not covering. So if somebody on the backside of the play isn't covering, meaning third base, and like let's say the third baseman for some reason shifted down and there's nobody at third, and you're like, oh God, there's nobody there. He's easily going to get back. Then you go back. But when you see it's a true rundown with the front side and the back side covered, you go ahead and commit yourself to go, and it's up to him to hang himself up in the rundown long enough for you to get there and for Markakis to get to second. That's how you do that. And obviously none of that happened.
No.
It was a colossal failure for the Braves in a terrible, terrible spot. And that obviously contributed to the loss. But, you have to give the Dodgers credit. The magic for the Braves, the run, it ran out. The 2 best teams in baseball this year in the World Series, man.
Right. And that, yes, that contributed to the loss. Who knows if the Braves would have won had that play not happened, but it certainly contributed to the loss. And then in the end, it is clearly the 2 best teams in baseball with an expanded playoff and a shortened season and all these weird rules that we're playing with. The 2 best teams in baseball are in the World Series.
That's right.
So it ended up working out, if you want to look at it that way, the way it was supposed to work out. Mookie Betts was spectacular. The Dodgers were the Dodgers, and they climbed out of that 3-1 hole, and now they've got the Rays, and this is the series that I think a lot of people wanted to see. The ratings are going to be awful, but that's okay. I want to see it. It's good baseball. And, it's a heck of a run for the Braves. The fact that the Braves were even in this position is pretty remarkable, and it lays the foundation now for the future going forward. And we talked a lot in the postseason that these young guys are able to put some of the past mistakes behind them, and it's because of the young guys and their free-for-all and their carefree attitude that they're able to have the success that they had. And then it's also because of some of the younger guys that they made this gaffe on the bases, and they showed their inexperience right there. It was just a total mental block.
It was, and you get what you get sometimes with young guys. Obviously they had played exceptionally well, and I still think they played exceptionally well. And but the right thing to do here is credit the Dodgers, because when you look at what happened this weekend, the Braves didn't score over 3 runs Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. 3 on Friday, 1 on Saturday, and 3 yesterday. You can't blame any of this on pitching. I know that Friday, that the Dodgers put 7 runs up there on the board, but Saturday the Braves gave up 3 runs, and Sunday the Braves gave up 4. That is more than reasonable against this Dodgers offense.
Yeah, and they hadn't been giving up anything at all. And then you're only going to give up. You knew Friday when you weren't going with Max Fried. You knew that in the Braves' minds, they're saying, maybe we can steal this thing, but if we drop it, okay. Because then we've got Fried and Anderson.
That's right.
So that was the attitude going in, and then obviously it didn't work out. And then, look, one of the reasons Fried and Anderson were so successful this year is because teams hadn't seen them. And you didn't play the Dodgers at all in the regular season because of the weird scheduling that we had. So then you finally see these guys again.
Yep. Saw them again.
And that's a big benefit to anybody, particularly a team that's as good as the Dodgers.
You're right. Yeah. Professional hitters, and the Dodgers may be the best offense in baseball. Professional hitters, when they see you a second or third time around, they're going to get their hits. And I know that Anderson only gave up 5, and he only gave up 2 earned, and he only walked 2 guys, but after what he did in the first game and then going through the lineup a couple of times here in the second game, I didn't blame Brian Snitker at all for going ahead and making a move after 3 innings last night to go to Matzik, who was good, and then Shane Green was good, and AJ Minter did not have the success that he had before. Another young guy out of Texas A&M, SEC guy, and they got one good swing of the bat there, and then had another one on Martin late in the game, and obviously that was Seager or Bellinger. I'm sorry.
Yep.
So that that's what happened. That's the way it works out. The Dodgers are in the World Series again. You have the only 2 teams in baseball with 40+ wins this year in the World Series. But look, what a year for the Atlanta Braves. I mean, honestly, I know everybody's disappointed. I know it's a long time since they've been in the World Series, and it's certainly 25 years since they've won one, and I get it. But they're going to be back. And what? They didn't have a rotation this year. I mean, they piecemealed this thing together. They had to do it in the playoffs. They had starting the rookie Pache in the playoffs. I mean, they had a lot of things that gave them every reason to not be in position to go to the World Series, man. And they were right there. They were 1 game short, 2 runs short of going to the World Series. I know that the outside looking in, look, they had a 3-run series lead and they blew it. You can say that. You can also say the Dodgers climbed back and won it. Probably depends on what side of the fence you're on based on how you're going to speak about it. But there's no reason for a Braves fan not to feel good about this organization and optimistic about where it's headed moving forward.
There's no question. I mean, it was a great story. It was a great run. It was fun to follow. As someone who has been a nemesis of the Braves for my entire life, right? I grew up a Pirates fan, and it wasn't until the D.C. area got a National League team that I switched to the Nationals, but it's always been the Braves that are standing in the way of my team, always. And this was a team that I was able to root for, and I've never been able to say that about the Braves.
Absolutely.
That's the type of team they became, and I'm not going to root for them next year. But, if the same situation happens, look, it was a fun team to root for. It was a fun team to watch play.
Braves will be one of the 3 or 4 teams next year with the best odds to win the World Series. There's no doubt about that. Certainly looking forward to seeing them back on the diamond in 2021. 843-321-8893. We'll come back to baseball here in just a little while. But now into football we go, and another quick honor for J.C. Horn, who had a huge day Saturday for the Gamecocks. He has been named the SEC Co-Defensive Player of the Week. That is in addition to yesterday being honored with the Walter Camp National Defensive Player of the Week. So J.C. Horn picking up a couple of nice awards following Carolina's 30-22 upset over the Auburn Tigers this weekend. And now it's 2-2 for South Carolina as they hit the road for Baton Rouge this weekend to take on LSU in a game that has been moved to 7 o'clock. Which I don't think is necessarily the best thing in the world. Playing in Baton Rouge at night is difficult, and I know LSU's not off to a great start this year, but it's still hard to go down there and win at night. More on that later. This was a huge, huge win for South Carolina. I obviously, being at the game, saw a lot of things that a lot of people did not see on TV, and I've been able to go back and watch the game since then as well. And kind of piece even more of it together here, Darren. But when from a broad perspective, right, from the bleachers, basically, if you said before the season Carolina is going to be 2-2 going into Baton Rouge, I think a lot of people would have taken it, or most people would have, and I think most of those people would have expected that 2-2. But I don't know that they would have expected it the way that it is rolled out itself 2-2, and they're 1 pick 6 away from being 3-1. Going into Baton Rouge this weekend, and we've all seen what's been going on in the SEC and across the country. Everybody has issues. And this team this weekend complemented themselves very well. And here's what I mean by that. If you look at the stat sheet and you go, okay, well, Auburn outgained the Gamecocks by, almost a couple hundred yards and things like that. But they had 3 turnovers. JC made 2 of them, forced the other, in which Jalen Dickerson caught it. And they scored 21 points off of those 3 turnovers, 21 of their 30. And at the end of the game there, they prevented Auburn from going in and scoring and tying this thing up, and there is something to be said about that. And you saw a bunch of young guys. I mean, Shiloh Sanders had the best game of his career. Jordan Birch played more snaps this week. Tonka Hemingway obviously got to start with Aaron Sterling being out of the ball game, and I thought played exceptionally well, 47 snaps for the freshman. They played largely a 4-2-5 defense this weekend, and those guys, the young guys, stepped up and made a bunch of really nice plays. And once again ran the football well. And I know that they're still searching, and they're probably never going to find one. At least that's the way it feels for another wide receiver outside of Shi Smith. I thought we'd see somebody maybe step up this weekend, but we didn't. But, Darren, you can slice it however you want to. We can go into all the details, and we will in a little bit with Wes. This was huge for South Carolina football, and this was huge for Will Muschamp.
Yes, because 14 days ago, we're sitting right here, and we're saying, my God, if the Gamecocks go down to Vanderbilt and lose, is this it for Will Muschamp? Is he going to survive the year? That's the conversation that we were having 2 weeks ago.
And not just us.
No, everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was a national story. It wasn't just in the Southeast region or for South Carolina fans. It was, what in the world is happening? And there wasn't panic inside that locker room. They started slow at Vanderbilt, and that could have easily led to more panic with all the whispers that they had been hearing.
Right.
You go down to Vanderbilt, there's no atmosphere. It's a gross day. The game is awful to start both ways. And then you put up 41 points. And then we talked a lot last week about the confidence. Is there momentum or is it confidence? Well, it's confidence right now.
Yeah.
And I said Friday that this felt like one of those games where maybe, yes, the Gamecocks should win the game, but at the same time, I couldn't expect that because I haven't seen that when they should win the game. And then watching how the game ended, I'm just going to jump right to there because I'm sitting here with a couple buddies, and we're saying, here it is. Here's the moment where Auburn breaks the hearts of Gamecock fans. Like here, this is what we're going to talk about on Monday. They're going to go down, they're going to score. Somehow they're going to force this thing into overtime, and it's going to be another heartbreaker. And it didn't happen. Mm-hmm. So we've talked a lot about learning how to win. This team is gaining confidence. They are learning how to win. And now you win this one, and you look at LSU's defense, which has been awful, and you say, you know what? We might just be able to go to Baton Rouge and win this football game. The feeling is so 180 from where we were 2 weeks ago. It's remarkable. It really is.
It really is. I mean, everybody overreacts after week one, and us included. I mean, that's what week one is there for. I feel like every year in college football, you're supposed to probably overreact a little bit. And, after that Florida game, there was some reaction, and the large majority of that was negative. And, based on what happened in that Florida game and how that game ended with the clock management and things like that, most of that was warranted. We should have been questioning those things because they deserve to be questioned. But since then, they've scored 71 points in 2 games, 41 against Vandy and 30 this week against the Auburn Tigers. And, if you look, right at the stat line and you say, well, they didn't even gain 300 yards of total offense. They were 3 yards shy of that. You're right. They also had short fields to work with a couple of those times. So, you have to take a bunch of stuff into consideration here. You got to give Auburn some credit. They ran the football really well. Tank Bigsby's really good.
Yep.
There's a reason why South Carolina was basically his destination until they weren't after Marshawn Lloyd committed. But Carolina won for the first time since 1933. They beat the Auburn Tigers. They also, of course, beat the Auburn Tigers for the first time as a member of the Southeastern Conference. That streak, guys, is over.
Yep.
And, coming into this year, one of the things that I said was it's time to end some of these things. Spurrier did a ton of that. One of the things, we talked about this last week a little bit, and one of the things that you got really used to hearing around here when Coach Spurrier was the head coach up in Columbia was, well, we're the first team to do this, and we're the first team to do that, and we're the first team to do this. And Will Muschamp, there's still a lot of those firsts out there, and Will Muschamp is trying to be the guy that gets to do the rest of that stuff. We can go back and list a whole bunch of firsts under Coach Spurrier, but, that's not pertinent to the conversation. What is what is Coach Muschamp doing? And now he's got his 4th win over a top 25 team since he's been the head coach at South Carolina. And, it's not fair yet, Darren, to say that this one is the most significant because last year Carolina went to Georgia and won the game, and after that they couldn't win anymore. Outside of that victory over Vanderbilt, they couldn't get another one.
That's right.
Okay, so what do you do with this win? And then that's the question that matters here. You know, what do you do with this win? You know, they won back-to-back last year. They beat that, got over that 5-year losing streak against the Wildcats. Then they go to Athens and win the game, and you're at 3-3, and you're like, okay, all right, it's moving in the right direction here. Didn't start off well, but it's moving in the right direction. Well, this one didn't start off well either, but it's moving in the right direction. Carolina is in the exact same spot that they were last year after beating Kentucky and Georgia on consecutive weekends. They were 3-3 then. They're 2-2 now. All right. So what comes next? What do you do next? Well, you mentioned they're going to go to Baton Rouge this weekend, and this trip to Baton Rouge, although it's been moved to a nighttime kick, clearly doesn't look like it did on the surface before the year started. Everybody saw that game and circled that game as a loss for Carolina, but that's not the case right now. You know, LSU is off to a 1-2 start with a loss against Missouri in a game that was moved from Baton Rouge to Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, they opened the year with that loss to Mike Leach's Mississippi State team, which just can't score points.
Nope.
But they scored 44 against LSU in the first week. So LSU does have problems. Now, what does this extra week mean to them? We're going to find out on Saturday, obviously. And I think Ed Orgeron right now is actually meeting with the media. But the next step is, even if they don't win this week, like you said before, it's competing. It's showing that this is not same old,
right.
Giving yourselves a chance down there, you know, doing the little things right, which they did most of that on Saturday.
And we came into the year trying to figure out, how do you establish progress? How do you grade a football team this year, like South Carolina, that needs to take a step forward? It needs to be a good year for Will Muschamp, but it's a 10-game SEC schedule, and it's going to be brutally hard. So how do you judge this thing? And we agreed that the way to judge it is to see progress, to see how the team is improving, to see how they are changing the attitude and changing the way that they approach certain in-game situations. Are you able to hold that 8-point lead when the favored team is driving against you at the end of the game?
Right.
Or are you going to find a way to cough that thing up? You want to see progress. You want to see the little indicators that say this team is getting better. And we can talk all we want about there were drops, sure. There were missed tackles at the beginning of the year, sure. There hasn't been another receiver to step up besides Shi Smith, yeah. But you know what? No one thought Kevin Harris was going to be this.
That's right.
Nobody
You're right.
thought that was going to happen. And despite some of the issues, they're moving forward.
Yep.
The play calling's good. The play calling is creative. The defense is flying around. Bo Nix was not good, but the defense had a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
And you're seeing these signs of progress. And now it's just, what's the next sign? What's the next sign down at LSU that this is continuing to go in the right direction?
Yeah, they forced Bo Nix, and again, Wes is coming up here in about 10 minutes or so, a little bit less than that. So obviously we'll talk in depth about much of this. But, yeah, they forced Bo Nix to do things that Bo Nix has been prone to do over the last couple of years, and that's make major mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And he did. And I know he threw for 272. He was 24-47, so just barely above 50% in the game. And I know Carolina probably like to have a couple of those plays back in coverage and things like that. A lot of that actually had to do with lack of pressure on the quarterback. When they got pressure on him, they did force him into some mistakes and certainly did what they were supposed to do there. But, yeah, you know, so now it's trying to win 3 in a row, which they haven't done in a few years. I think 2017 was the last time they won 3 games in a row. So you're talking about 4 football seasons since that happened. And again, it is very possible to do it against LSU this weekend. But this team has to find ways to win. And that's what they did on Saturday. They found a way to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
They found a way to win the game. You know, when the offense can complement the defense and vice versa, you have a really good shot to win in football. So, all right, so what do I mean by that? What does that mean? Well, it means when the defense gets a turnover, the offense is able to score. That's what that means, just to put it point blank. They can score.
Mm-hmm.
When the offense scores, the defense get out there and go 3 and out. or maybe give up one first down, but you force a punt somewhere. That's complementary football, and they did a lot of that on Saturday, and they, of course, made some bugaboos again. But look around college football. Who's not making bugaboos right now?
Yep.
Everybody, maybe with the exception of Clemson, unfortunately for Gamecock fans, everybody is making bugaboos right now. And Carolina is not immune to that, especially, with the youth of their football program in specific positions, Darren. And the atmosphere was good. The one negative I have to take away, and I don't complain much about it until you really need to. The officiating was not good. And I tweeted something out about it with a bad word on Saturday. The call that they made against J.C. Horn was horse blank. It was just terrible. And I went back and rewatched the game, and I noticed that on TV, you couldn't see what we were seeing in the game. The number of holds. All right, so Auburn's offense is sideline to sideline. They spread you out, and they try to find creases. Well, Auburn was holding all day. And how do I know that? Well, here's how I know that. It's pretty simple. When an arm is extended and a jersey is stretched, that's called a hold. Okay? So after about 3 or 4 of them, I started counting, and I got up to 11.
Damn.
All right, 11. And I literally was sitting here going, all right, I'm not crazy, right, with who I was sitting with. And I'm like, nope, no, you're not. That has to get better. In Carolina, sometimes you can't beat that. You got to find a way to overcome that. But sometimes when the team's just a lot better than you, which I don't think Auburn is, it's hard to beat that. So officiating in the SEC, once again, just isn't very good. I don't know why that is. But at the end of the day, they won the game. They're 2-2, and I think people are breathing a sigh of relief right now. This defense has only given up 29 points in the last 2 weeks. There's something to be said for that, Darren. That's less than 15 points a game, and that's really good.
Yeah. I mean, I'm almost at a loss for words because of I was surprised because this was a game they should win. Granted, they were underdogs, slight underdogs, but we said it on the show that they're better. They're the better football team, and it's fair to expect to win. But over the years, those are the games the Gamecocks don't win.
Right.
I mean, I've lived down here now for almost 20 years. The story's always the same. It's always the same. It's like when you and JC start rehashing these horrible memories of when you had games and blew them. And you go on, and they're funny stories because now it's in the past. But that's the identity of the program. Mm-hmm. And to watch it start to change is something. I mean, it really is something to see. And then if you combine that with the rest of the SEC, college football in general, God, this even extends up to the NFL. Everyone's got some issues. I think the lack of practice time and the weird camps and everything, COVID has caused issues on the field at every level of football.
Yep.
But now you see a team learning how to win. You see major flaws in other teams around the league, say other than Alabama, and you're sitting here thinking, what is possible? Because that's a fair question to ask right now. What is possible? Ole Miss finally came crashing down to earth on Saturday.
Yeah.
So, can the defense take something from what Arkansas saw? Does that game now become less scary because Arkansas exposed something? I don't know. But, is Stetson Bennett the answer at Georgia? I don't know. Yeah, so, I mean, there are lots of questions around the SEC. Guarantano's going to be benched. He was awful. Yeah. Kentucky can't score. The only reason Kentucky won the game is because Guarantano gave him the game.
Yeah.
So there's reason for any South Carolina fan, and I think other fans around the league too, to sit back and say
everybody should have optimism.
Right. You could easily sit back and say, well, okay, how many games can we really win here?
Right.
It's a fair question to ask right now.
And I think it's okay to have that mentality. I mean, it should be a one game at a time. Obviously the football team takes it one game at a time, but it's okay if you're a fan to look down the road and say, look, these are all winnable games left on this schedule. It doesn't mean they're going to win them all. That's not what I'm saying. But they are all winnable games. Real quick here, coming up, the kick times. This is the off week for South Carolina, obviously, clearly, which will be Halloween. Georgia and Kentucky has been announced as a noon kick. That game in Lexington on the SEC Network. LSU at Auburn is on CBS at 3:30, and we'll see if both of those teams will have L's on their schedule from South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Ole Miss and Vandy at 4 on the SEC Network. Mississippi State at Alabama at 7 o'clock on ESPN. After that first week, I thought, wow, that could be interesting. Leach and Saban. It doesn't look very interesting right now.
No, not at all.
Arkansas at Texas A&M at 7:30 on the SEC Network. And Missouri.
That's suddenly interesting, though.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Arkansas's defense, Barry Odom, has brought something that none of us thought was there.
Yeah, Laura Rutledge. That's it.
Yeah, Laura. Major props to Laura. She was dead on. And then 7:30, the SEC Network, and then the alternate channel that night, Missouri, of course, is at Florida. It's 7:30. So there you go. That's the Halloween slate. But Gamecocks off that weekend. They're not, though. Coming up this weekend on the road in Baton Rouge, Wes Mitchell with Gamecock Central. He is set to join us when we return. We'll talk about that one. Obviously, tons about the Auburn game and much, much more. So hang tight. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. We'll be right back.
Is your old car really scary? Does it look dreadful or smell awful? Don't be frightened. There's never been a better time to trade in your spooky old car. Stokes Volkswagen just received a new shipment of the VW Atlas and VW Crossport. But here's what makes that even sweeter. Every new Atlas and Crossport is $3,000 off MSRP. Plus, every 2020 Volkswagen is available with 0% financing. That's right. You get both the huge discount and 0% financing. So if you want to play trick or treat at other dealerships, that's okay. Come see us at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or visit stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Plus tax tag includes $399.50 closing fee. Offer subject to lender approval. Expires month end.
The best cheesesteak in Charleston is at DB's Cheesesteaks. JB here. We say it every day, and we mean it. You voted for him. Let DB's Cheesesteaks in Avondale and West Ashley feed your family this football season. Use your favorite delivery app. Have them dropped off before your favorite game. And don't forget the boardwalk fries. They come with the Old Bay seasoning. DB'sCheesesteaks.com for the full menu. Hoagies, hot dogs, burgers, and more. DB's Cheesesteaks, the best cheesesteak in Charleston, the best cheesesteak for football.
Hey guys, it's Darren, just here to tell you about our good friends over at Dog and Duck. They've got 3 locations, one in Bell Hall, one in Park West, and one, the new one, out on Clements Ferry. I can tell you from personal experience, it's the only restaurant in town that I've been to since this whole place has reopened. Everything is socially distant, very comfortable, and to top it all off, great selection of rotating craft beers, food specials every day, family meals. If you don't want to go in, you can order it and have some curbside pickup as well. Dog and Duck, 3 locations, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, here it is. Even the other stations are tuned in too.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
All right, 12:33 here on a beautiful Monday afternoon in the low country of South Carolina. It's October the 19th. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. That's Darren. I'm Jamie, and we're here till 2 o'clock. Reggie Merriweather, he'll join us today at 1:30, and we'll get his take on the Tigers' dismantling of Georgia Tech over the weekend. But first, we head to Columbia. That's where we find our friend, everybody's friend, the guy with great hair, Wes Mitchell with Gamecock Central. What's up, man?
Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going?
So is this your first chance to do like everybody else has done publicly and just take a shot at Colin Taylor for getting married this weekend? He got eaten up last week.
Let me talk about the timing of this wedding.
Yeah.
So I'm literally like running out. Like my girlfriend is like, we have to go now because the Carolina game is ending at 3:45-ish, and Colin's wedding was at 4 o'clock.
Oh my God.
So, and I actually, my girlfriend's parents live right near the venue. So we're sitting there watching the game at their house, and she's like, idiot, get in the car. Auburn is driving to either tie this game or for Carolina to win. And so we literally barely beat the wedding party to the wedding. And then the Braves game was during the reception. So, but no, it was great, man. I'm really happy for Colin and Michaela. And like I said, like I told them both, I'm just glad Michaela picked out the food, because if Colin was picking out the food, we'd all been a word I won't say on your show.
Yeah, I got you. I got you. No, totally get it. Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, I know that he originally set the date for the off week and things like that, but you always have to take just the pure factor of football season into consideration. My wife knew. She knew when we got engaged. She knew. Look, we can't go past August. We just can't. So
it's a rule.
Yeah,
my guy Mike Yuva from Watch Fox, he's on the Zoom call in the church after the game, post game, getting smacked by his girlfriend to get off the Zoom call.
Dude, but if anybody understands this stuff, Colin does, though, right? I mean, he gets it.
Yeah, I don't know if the wife understands stuff like that on wedding day. That's tough. But yeah, it was. I'm in all seriousness, I'm just kidding, because it was originally the bye week. I know having a fall wedding was important to her, so they planned it very well initially, but none of us could have ever predicted COVID, when they were planning this thing a year ago.
Yeah. You should take those things into consideration. Like I said, you got to think about pandemics before you get married.
Totally got to be prepared.
Look, honey, here's the thing. If a pandemic hits and it screws up football season, it could screw up the off week. So we're going to have to get married in June. Actually, June's a bad time, too, because you never know when the Gamecocks make a run to the World Series. I mean, literally, like I tried to eliminate every you know how this works, right? You've been a Gamecock your entire life. Just when you think it's not going to happen, it does. So you have to always plan against the thing that might happen, and then of course it doesn't because you plan against it. But when you don't plan against it and it does happen, so I knew August is, July, you can get away with July. July's a dead month in the world of college sports. Early August, you can get away with that. The rest of it, you just never know. Carolina might end up in the Final Four. The baseball team might end up back in the World Series. Football team, you just don't know. So anyways, speaking of the football team, they did play this weekend, Wes. I hear you got to watch the games. That's good. And, of course, an enormous win over Auburn, 30-22. So I want to get your take on this. I said earlier to my co-host here, Darren Goldwater, that they are in the exact same spot that they were last year after beating Kentucky and Georgia on back-to-back weeks. They were 3-3, and here they are 2-2 after opening the season 0-2. And it's all about what do they do with these two games moving forward. Clearly a challenge ahead on Saturday night. But do you agree with that statement that they are in literally, I think, the exact same spot that they were last year at 500 after an upset?
Yeah, I think it's a huge opportunity for them now. And it's just about what do they do with it. I think going into the Florida game last year, we talked about how the Georgia win was a great win for the program, but you have to sort of build off of it from there. And obviously, I think for about 3/4 of that Florida game, it felt like they were about to do that, and then they had a really bad fourth quarter and just couldn't capitalize on a great opportunity. So I think you have another chance to change perception of the program as far as how people from the outside look at it. If South Carolina can reel off another win, that's 3 in a row. You're sitting at 3-2 going into the bye week, get a chance to sort of reset, self-scout, see what you've done well, see what you want to change. And it's really huge for the entire program. Obviously, if you turn around and lose to LSU, it's not the end of the world, but it is another, I think, missed opportunity if that happens. And I think, as a fan base, generally, I think everybody got too low after starting 0-2. When you win a big game, the fan base probably gets a little too high as well. That's sort of how it works. That's the ebbs and flows of a season. But I think you sort of take this win for what it is. It's a huge win for the program. Still plenty of things to clean up on the field, but it does create an opportunity. And the thing for South Carolina is to now you've given yourself another chance, so now take advantage of that opportunity this time.
Yeah, absolutely. And as it pertains to last year, you're right. They came out and played that Florida game, actually played well until some things didn't go their way. When you hold guys for 50 yards and stuff like that, it's obviously going to affect you. But it was the 3 after that is what frustrated people. You had Tennessee, Vandy, App State, and they went 1-2 in those 2 games, the only win over Vanderbilt. And so obviously everybody knows what's ahead this weekend. But it's also, and we're going to come back to LSU here in a minute and their program, what this off week meant and stuff like that. But it also is I think personally, Wes, maybe even more of a winnable opportunity than what they had against the Gators last year after beating Georgia. But let's get into this Auburn game here because there were some things that they certainly need to clean up. Every team has that, Wes, especially in this league. I mean, look around. I mean, right? We're seeing it every week. But I think for the first time in a long time, certainly in this year, they played the most, quote, complimentary football that I've seen. And what I mean by that, most importantly here, is the defense created turnovers, the offense capitalized.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's easy to forget those two things are married together. Your offense is always married to your defense, and we like to sometimes separate them. And you'll see it all the time. If a team has a really explosive offense and they're one of these hurry up offenses and they're not staying on the field very long on offense, hey, guess what? Your defense probably gives up a few more points than if you had a ball control offense that keeps the other team off the field and sort of plays to protect your defense a little bit. So they're not completely separate, even though, your depth chart is separate. You have separate players. It's different people, it's different humans, but at the end of the day, they're really married together. So I think for South Carolina, we're seeing the blueprint right now. And really, it's nothing new. This was sort of the blueprint in the two games they lost as well. In this game, South Carolina just made the plays they needed to really late and throughout the course of the game. You have to have big games, I think, if you're South Carolina, from your best players. And J.C. Horn gave them just – I was going to say 3, but really it goes beyond that. He gave them some outstanding plays throughout the game. You look at Shi Smith, comes up with big catches with the touchdown, the late catch down the sideline, the one-handed grab. When you have a limited number of true playmakers, then you have to rely on those particular guys to go make plays for you in big, tight games. And I think that's what happened with South Carolina. And as the season goes on, I think we're seeing it confirmed. We talked about this last week. I think you kind of have in the league, you have Vanderbilt. Everybody's going to sort of beat up on Vandy. I think now with Alabama beating Georgia, you can sort of firmly say you have Alabama, probably the cream of the crop in the league. But then let's go 2 through 9, maybe 3 through 9. I still haven't decided where Georgia is in that order. But for the most part, all the other teams in this league, and not just from a cliched standpoint of, anybody can beat anybody, but literally these teams are all so similar. You're going to have, I think, a ton of fourth quarter games throughout the year. It's going to be about who makes plays, who avoids stupid things, and who either creates turnovers or, makes turnovers by making mistakes.
On Twitter at Wes Mitchell GC, Wes Mitchell, of course, with Gamecock Central. You are spot on, my friend, and obviously you cover recruiting, and if you go back and look every year in recruiting, there's always 10, 12 SEC teams somewhere in the top 25 or top 30, and that's why this is all very similar, and you add COVID into this and injuries and coaching changes and things like that. That's the perfect scenario for some wacky stuff to happen, obviously early in the year through 4 or 5 weeks here. We've already seen it. Specifically to this game, all right, let's talk about JC. It did appear to me, Darren, I don't know what it looked like on TV, but it did appear to me, being there, that Auburn was the most stubborn football team I've seen in 3 years in attempting to go right at him. And with McQuamu not playing, and they had, Johnny Dixon out there. I love Muschamp's quote after the game. He said it's going to be JD and JC unless something crazy happens. But they decided they were going to go right at JC Horn. Mm-hmm. And I think they figured out why they're the only team in 3 years to do that, because how many times have we said this, Wes? The reason he doesn't have a bunch of picks because he doesn't get a bunch of opportunities, but he got opportunities on Saturday, and he took advantage of all of them.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know any other way to say it. It was pretty idiotic. I mean, what? I don't know. I don't know what you're doing.
I don't either.
And JC is the type of dude, when you test him, he's going to take that personally. I think if you're a great cornerback and JC just exudes this, you have to have that mindset. Like, they're testing me. I think it probably shocked him at first. I'm sure shutting down Seth Williams was something that JC looked forward to. But then I don't know if you go into that game thinking, I mean, like you said, we've seen it for 2.5 years. Teams don't test J.C. Horn. We found out why. But I think he even sort of played off of that. I think it's kind of as the game goes on, he's like, they're still coming here. And so that was good for him. If the NFL scouts weren't paying attention before, I'm sure they are now.
Oh.
And, I'll credit South Carolina staff too. It seems like a no-brainer, but I haven't really seen them always take the approach of we're going to take JC and just put him on the best guy. At times it seems like it's more like, hey, we're going to go line up our defense. And I don't know if it's left versus right or boundary versus field as far as how you set the defense, but I don't know if South Carolina's necessarily set the defense as in put JC on their best guy. And for this game, matchup-wise, they saw Seth Williams had really excelled against some smaller cornerbacks. And so South Carolina said, look, we're putting our dude on their dude, and we're going to see who the better man is. And for South Carolina and for everybody else, they saw what the answer is there. But I think JC even got in Williams' head as the game went on and sort of, I'm sure, let him know that he was winning this battle as the game progressed. So I couldn't be happier for JC Horn, man, because he really has done everything right. And it just, I think most people know how good he was anyway, but it just had not resulted in the Sports Center type highlight plays that make you a household name to your sort of just casual fan.
Right.
Yeah. Look, I agree, man. I mean, and this kid, and you have to wonder how this is going to project moving forward. I'll say this. If you're playing opposite JC in the ball game from here on out, whether that's Izzy or Johnny or whoever it's going to be, it's probably going to come your way a little bit.
Better be ready.
I mean, this kid is. I mean, Wes. I mean, you were on this before. He even committed to South Carolina. I think if I remember correctly, you and Chris, in covering his recruitment, were like, "Look, this is a game-changing corner." I mean, this kid, when he commits, if he commits and he becomes a Gamecock, this is a guy who obviously understands the game because his dad is Joe Horn. But he is the next great one. And he hasn't had any picks in his career because nobody throws to him. But, they tried it on Saturday with a guy who throws a lot of them in Bo Nix, and it didn't work out. You mentioned Shi Smith. I mean, early in the game, Wes, I think something that was frustrating for fans was watching Shi Smith continue to be a little bit mouthy out there, and he was baited into a lot. And that worked. Auburn did a nice job in getting Shi Smith to kind of get out of his own mind a little bit and focus more on what people were saying to him rather than, playing football. But he clearly calmed down, and the second half was really kind to Shi Smith, who's proven to be one of the best wideouts in this league. Did you get to see that? Did you feel like that was part of Auburn's strategy going into the game? Like maybe there are some loose ends on South Carolina's football team, at least from an emotional standpoint. Maybe we can force them into a couple of bonehead type penalties.
Yeah, I don't know if that was planned or just sort of, their guys are chirping, Carolina's guys are chirping. And, I've seen a lot on social media about people's responses to South Carolina's tendencies to sort of talk a little bit. And I think certainly against Vanderbilt, it goes too far when you're out there shoving people and I'm talking in general. You're out there sort of getting in a skirmish and it keeps you from getting off a final play of the half where it actually affects the game. That's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it comes to Shi specifically, I think in some ways he has to play with that edge, and that's who he is. It's kind of one of those things for me where you have to try to walk that fine line. And if you're Shi Smith, you do try to walk the line of not letting it get too far to where it's a detriment, but you can't go out there and change. If you're an emotional guy, if you are driven by emotion, you can't go out there and just shut it down and not be yourself, because then you're not going to be successful either. So like Muschamp said, you'd rather have to sort of tell a guy whoa and reel him in than you would have to start him up. I think you need self-starters. Lord knows this offense has needed playmakers. So
true.
I don't know. I'm a little more forgiving on Shi Smith than some people are. Yes, you sort of have to you have to walk that line, but you have to have a guy or two that plays with an edge as well. I mean, nobody cared that DJ Swearinger was literally talking after every play after he knocked dudes' heads off when he was here. And Carolina fans still talk about that to this day, about needing a guy like DJ Swearinger on the defensive side of the ball. So is there a fine line you're trying to walk? Absolutely. But I'm not against having one or two guys that sort of keep the emotions up for your side of the ball.
Yeah. No, not at all, especially if they perform. And, and Shai for the most part performs. I mean, he's dropped a few this year like they all have. But obviously he performs. On the defensive side of the football, how about a couple of these young guys? I mean, obviously Shiloh, has the best game of his career, gets his first start, I think, right, Wes, as far as I recall. Tonka gets his first start up front with Aaron Sterling, out of the ball game. So, when you look at this and you go, all right, let's look at all the young guys playing in the game. Especially on defense. You got Shiloh Sanders out there. You got Johnny Dixon out there. You got Jordan Birch out there. You got Tonka Hemingway out there. I think they're pretty close to getting Alex Huntley back, and he's going to play. These young guys, they are young, Wes, but they are really good, and I saw really good things out of all of them on Saturday.
Yeah, I think the progression of Shiloh Sanders has been one of the biggest. I don't say it's the biggest storyline. One of the biggest needs for Carolina in that secondary. They needed somebody to come on at safety.
Yeah.
Especially when you have some DBs that are out, even though, sort of more at cornerback. But Izzy's a guy who has played quite a bit of safety so far. So Shiloh coming on has been big. He was a guy that came in. He's a little bit raw as a football player. But when you look at sort of where he was last year and coming on all offseason, coming on to start this year, it's big. And it's big to have a guy who's got some speed that you can put in at safety. You can sort of roam. He's not scared to hit. And, I think I'll go back to Johnny Dixon too, man. Yeah, teams are going to test him, but as much as sort of like it's kind of opposite. While Horn was sort of the guy quietly doing his job for the last 2.5 years and being overshadowed by flash plays by other people, it's sort of interesting. Horn has the big flashy day on Saturday, but it ain't like they were picking on Johnny Dixon. He just allowed, I think, a handful, maybe 4 short receptions.
Mm-hmm.
So Johnny has come in and done his job. He's another guy this staff was really high on. When they recruited him, he had to come back from an injury, so you're always sort of waiting to see what that's going to look like. But Johnny Dixon, I would say, is one of the young, unsung heroes of this defense so far with this 2-2 start.
No doubt. I'm with you. I'm totally with you there. Love his game. Kier Thomas returns, gets 2 sacks, had a huge day for the senior. Got to be happy for him. And then another guy, you said his name every week for 2 months, Wes, longer than that, but at least on our program for about 2 months around here. And that's Deshaun Fenwick. I mean, Deshaun ran hard, ran well. We know what Kevin did. Hey, what about the play that was called back, the 78-yard touchdown run for Harris? Was that a hold? I couldn't tell.
I believe so.
Was that a real hold in your mind, Wes?
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, it's one of those like holdings called on every play type holds. I mean,
or not called.
You can call it. Muschamp was like clearly annoyed by it. It wasn't this blatant, hey, they completely screwed this up, but it was more like, come on, man, you calling that in Columbia?
Yeah,
on an 80-yard run, like
let's
third down. Great play call.
Right.
They hit him. It's sort of it's a little bit of a tweaked. The play they ran, just the way that I haven't seen them run that play exactly that way much this year. So I think they caught Auburn off guard because it was shotgun with the running back to the right, and they ran a power sort of back to the right. Normally you run those plays right to left.
Yep.
And completely caught Auburn overloaded. South Carolina had Auburn overloaded with blockers to that side. Great play call. And then I think that's when you're probably most frustrated as a coach is when you hit them with one and they call it. And it wasn't like he bear hugged the guy. He tugged him as he blocked him, I think. But that play's probably 50-50. And it seems, I don't know. I don't want to fuel the conspiracies, but I think South Carolina, maybe rightfully so, feels like more of the 50-50s from officiating go against them, against the major powers in the SEC. So that one just sort of fueled it. Now they did, I'll give them credit. The long play that got erased by Auburn later in the game, was that on Auburn's final drive or the drive before that? It was all running together for me. I think it was Swartz had a big catch and run that got.
I want to say that was the final drive, but
I'm with you there too.
I think it was the final drive,
right? Because it had, I think so.
This is the one going
down, and then that's why in my head I'm like, oh, here we go.
This is the one going down the right, down Auburn sideline, right? If I remember,
I can't remember if it was the final one or the field goal drive for Auburn, but they did bring one back that they made the call on. So you tend to, if you watch a game from a perspective of one team, which if you're a Carolina fan, for Carolina media, you're watching it from a perspective of South Carolina, you're going to be like, oh, the refs are screwing, the team I'm watching. But then if you sort of really try to balance it out, you're like, okay, it maybe isn't quite as bad as it seems. But.
Well, I said that Saturday when I was at the game. And because Wes, we all know it's when you watch it on TV and then you're there, you get to see it a little bit different. I counted 11 different times where Auburn was holding our guys on defense, and none of them were called. And these are times where the arm was extended and the jersey was being pulled. And I was like, okay, that's holding. Like, that is the definition of holding. Some of that might have not been called because maybe they felt like it didn't affect the play. But, in saying all that, you brought up Muschamp a minute ago, and I know we're about to roll through the top of the hour here real quick, but that's fine for this conversation.
We get to do that when we don't have rules on this show.
When we own it, we do it.
That's right.
But I think Muschamp, Will had one of his finer moments of his entire tenure at South Carolina at West, at least that I can remember the last couple of years, actually throughout the ball game, because he was letting them hear it all day. And I don't know if they caught it on TV, but Will was about a minute late getting into the locker room because he stopped the guy who made that terrible pass interference call on JC. When it was actually the other way. He stopped that guy before halftime, and he chewed his rear end out on the 10-yard line for about a minute. He didn't let him go. The guy tried to walk away, and Will was just standing in front of him, and nobody was stopping him. And he stayed on him throughout the day, and there was a couple of calls that definitely went our way and probably should not have. And I kept thinking to myself, I think Will might have bought himself a couple from earlier in the game. I really think he handled that incredibly well.
Yeah, I caught some of that watching on TV, and yeah, I think you got to work the refs, right? You got to keep pointing out, hey, you missed that one. Hey, you missed that one. Hey, and I'm sure that's not probably the exact terminology he was using on the guy. But yeah, you got to keep working the refs and hope you get a call later on. And Carolina, maybe they need to hold themselves a little bit more on pass protection, because that's really when I feel like they don't call it. The problem is Carolina, when they got called, it was an offensive lineman that was downfield blocking.
Mm-hmm. You're right.
And the linebacker is trying to sort of run across the face of the offensive lineman. And when you hit him, it sort of creates visually, he tugged him and kept him from getting, laterally across the field. Those get called. It's same the hold that was called on South Carolina last year against Alabama on the fake field goal. The guy's trying to come across the field, and Markway hits him, and because he's coming across his face, you just see it easier.
Right.
Whereas it seems like in pass rush situations, these guys on the edge, other teams just maul South Carolina's ends, it feels like. So really, I think you should probably hold a little bit more out there if you're really any team on those pass rush. Just teach holding, I think, until they call it.
That's right. You just ended with the exact right thing. Until they call it, do what you got to do, and until if it's going on, do it until they start calling it and make you stop.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. Down 9-0 in the game, South Carolina would rebound to score 30 points, 30-13. They would outscore Auburn down the stretch. A clear win for Carolina. Now they head to Baton Rouge, Wes, and we'll kind of finish here on that note. It's an LSU team, obviously, that I would venture a guess here is probably fairly frustrated, obviously, with how they've started the season. They have essentially not even put anybody out there to defend the pass through the first couple of weeks. Didn't play this weekend because of COVID with Florida. So they've had an extra week to prepare. That game's originally scheduled to kick off at 4 p.m. or 3 p.m., I guess, Baton Rouge time. It's been moved to 7 Eastern, 6 o'clock locally over there. Carolina has won in Baton Rouge. That was in 1994. So it's been a little bit of a while around here since they've done that as well. But I know you're starting to dig into this matchup even more here. What have you seen that you feel like might play into the Gamecocks' favor as they prepare for the Tigers? What have you seen that might be a little bit more scary or a little bit more difficult for South Carolina as they're getting ready to make the trip?
Yeah, well, again, you're playing sort of a brand here, like you're playing LSU and you're in their house, and it is still a night game, even if we got COVID crowds. So I think that's part of it. You're going way away from home. That's part of it. Now, I think on the field, it's an LSU team that, like you said, has really struggled. The Bo Pelini defense has not been good so far. They've got some guys banged up on offense. We'll see. Is Miles Brennan able to play this week?
Yeah.
I think one of their playmakers is maybe banged up as well. I think that's something to watch as the week goes on. So I haven't really sort of got into them yet, but I know from what I've seen, the fact they lost like 30 guys that were contributors last year. I don't care how well you recruit, and I don't care how much you reload. It takes some time to sort of gel, a new team together when you have so many new guys, new coordinators. You lose Joe Brady, who was so phenomenal in what he brought to that offense, from a scheme standpoint. Obviously, Joe Burrow as well. So they're sort of a team trying to find themselves, I think. If you're South Carolina, you just go about your business. Don't turn the ball over. That's something they've been good about. And give yourself a shot, right? That's the blueprint. Everybody knows the blueprint. Just keep playing. Hang in there. For me, Colin Hill, it's not flashy, but he just gives this offense a chance.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, Colin Hill is the anti-Bo Nix. And Bo Nix is going to have the flash. Bo Nix is going to, have these big running plays, maybe some throws that wow you from a big-time standpoint, but then he's going to have throws that you're like, what did I just see? So I think for Carolina, Colin Hill just gives them that steadying force on offense. And they're going to be in a lot of these games where it might not always be pretty, but I think they can get into another fourth quarter ball game, and we'll see if they can build off of the confidence you receive from winning a fourth quarter game like they did this past week.
Yeah. They confidence, and they've got some momentum, and they'll hopefully fly that with themselves down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Quick note here on LSU, which is atrocious when you think about LSU. Through 3 games, only 290 yards rushing. That is 3.2 yards per carry. That's less than 100 per game.
And now you got Brennan banged up on the back end of all that.
Right. And if he's not able to go, which we'll see what the week unfolds, they'll have to start a true freshman at quarterback who's never played. And the Marshall kid at wideout is probably their biggest offensive threat. And I would venture a guess, going back to what Wes said a little bit ago here, they haven't necessarily put JC on the best receiver every game, but this might be one time where they go ahead and do that. Let him just kind of follow him around. JC, of course, playing with the most confidence in his career as well. All right, Wes, what do we have this week on Gamecock Central as you get us prepped and ready to go for the Tigers and the Gamecocks?
Yeah, hey, I got a different promo code for y'all.
Nice.
Oh, that's right.
Hey, check this one. All right.
Oh, God.
Until midnight tonight. All right.
All right.
Put in promo code Beat Auburn.
Okay.
And literally, and this deal will never come back again. I cannot stress that enough. It will never come back again. Beat Auburn will give, if you've never subscribed before, 1 year for $12.
Oh, man.
What? Dude.
Yes. That is in honor of Carolina's big win and in honor of Colin Taylor's wedding.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I get it. Okay.
Until midnight, it literally will never come back again.
Okay.
So if you want to try Gamecock Central for an entire year and you've been on the fence, Beat Auburn, $12.
Wow.
$12. That it costs more to go to lunch these days.
Oh, yeah.
Because food is expensive. I don't know how much that Philly cheesesteak y'all talk about all the time costs.
About $12.
But it's probably about $10 or so.
Yeah, if you get it delivered, definitely. Little tip on top. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
12. bleeping dollars, come to GamecockCentral.com.
And 50% of the proceeds go to paying off the bar tab from Colin Taylor's wedding. No, I'm kidding. $12. Tweet that out, Darren.
I'm doing it.
He's on the tweeter. He's on the tweeter machine. We okay, all right. We're going to try to make you at least $144 today, all right?
Okay.
All right,
I'm holding y'all to that.
We're going to try. We're going to try. If we don't, well, then Darren can pay you personally next week.
$12.
Wes, thank you, man. Really, really good stuff as always. I know you got a lot going on this week as Carolina tries to get to 3-2 somehow after that 0-2 start. Remarkable turnaround so far for Gamecock football. Look forward to next Monday, hopefully talking about another win. This is fun to do it on Mondays after they win. So we appreciate everything as always.
All right, guys. Y'all have a good one.
There you go. Wes Mitchell with Gamecock Central on Twitter at Wes Mitchell GC. All right, we are 5 minutes past the hour, so we need to hit a quick timeout. When we return, some more notes to get to in college football. So we got some NFL notes as well. We got Reggie Merriweather at 1:30. So hang tight. The JB and Goldwater Show, Hour 2, coming up next. The best cheesesteak in Charleston is at DB's Cheesesteaks. JB here. We say it every day, and we mean it. You voted for them. Let DB's Cheesesteaks in Avondale and West Ashley feed your family this football season. Use your favorite delivery app. Have them dropped off before your favorite game. And don't forget the boardwalk fries. They come with the Old Bay seasoning. DB'sCheesesteaks.com for the full menu. Hoagies, hot dogs, burgers, and more. DB's Cheesesteaks, the best cheesesteak in Charleston, the best cheesesteak for football.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Hey guys, it's Darren, just here to tell you about our good friends over at Dog and Duck. They've got 3 locations, one in Bell Hall, one in Park West, and one, the new one, out on Clements Ferry. I can tell you from personal experience, it's the only restaurant in town that I've been to since this whole place has reopened. Everything is socially distant, very comfortable, and to top it all off, great selection of rotating craft beers, food specials every day, family meals. If you don't want to go in, you can order it and have some curbside pickup as well. Dog and Duck, 3 locations, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back 9 is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the national anthem.
Live, loud, and online.
I hear Wes Mitchell's offer is already picking up steam, huh?
It is. Right there on Facebook. Someone's watching there. Jeremy Good says, thanks, Wes. Signing up now. $12.
Perfect.
$12 until midnight tonight.
Thanks, Jeremy. Tell your friends about it, obviously. Those are our buddies up there in Columbia with Gamecock Central, and they do, obviously, an exceptional job. Oh, there's your tweet. Let me retweet that. I'll
there you
get
go.
that out here in a second. Welcome back. Hour 2 of the JV and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Of course, as always, we are live, loud, and online and available at jbandgoldwatershow.com. You can watch us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Periscope. Listen on the Podbean app, and that is all free. Again, jbandgoldwatershow.com. And find our friends at Stokes Volkswagen, StokesVW.com. 843-321-8893 is our text line. It's also our phone line, and you can also get us in. I think there's a bunch of chat rooms out there, probably Facebook and on the app, the Podbean app, and things like that. So if you want to send something our way, Darren will read it. I won't, and he'll get it out on the
There's
on
a
the
million ways to get to us.
Yeah.
You can figure it out. Facebook, Twitter,
I think so.
Podbean, whatever.
All right, let's get to some other stuff happening in the world of college football. Obviously, everybody knows the scores and things like that from this past weekend. Biggest game was Bama in Georgia, and Bama did what I thought they'd do. They righted the ship, certainly, and they were able to go out and win that one comfortably, 41-24. Most importantly, Georgia did not score a point in the second half of that game. Alabama clearly number 2. Back comes the Big Ten this week. We'll get there in a minute. But it looks like it's Clemson, Bama, probably Ohio State, and then everybody else. Clemson, of course, dismantled Georgia Tech. Going to talk much more about that in about 20-plus minutes with our friend Reggie Merriweather. Elsewhere around the sport, I mean, if you say you saw this coming, either one of them, you're lying. Nobody saw 34 points from Kentucky, and nobody saw Florida State beating North Carolina. 31-28 to give Mac Brown and the Heels their first loss of the year. Maybe that's something that gets the Noles going. They're 2-3 now. Their only other win against Jacksonville State earlier this season. Matter of fact, when that first game was played, Darren, and they lost to Georgia Tech, I mean, I thought of the first 5, I thought the least winnable for them was North Carolina. I thought they had more of a chance to go win in South Bend by the luck of the Irish. No pun intended. But they won this one. Whatever.
So you bench your quarterback. You bring in a sophomore who can run the ball. He's not much of a passing threat, but he runs for 102 scores. He throws for a little bit and another score.
Yeah.
Jordan Travis is his name. North Carolina, who was 5th in the country, I think, last week, which we all knew was kind of comical, but a lot less comical than Notre Dame being number 3 this week.
Come on.
But look, man, college football is better when the Blue Bloods aren't terrible. I mean, college football needs Florida State to not be 1-9. You need them to not look totally inept. Mm-hmm. So hopefully, and for Mike Norvell, good for him. Because he walked into a terrible situation, and it wasn't easy for him because there were all sorts of issues in that locker room, and there probably still are.
Probably still are.
But, man, what a win. I mean,
what a win.
You could see how happy he was after the game, and, it's a massive win for them. It really is. Because we could basically counted them out and say, look, they're not going to beat anybody.
Well, I mean, this Florida State team is reminiscent of last year's Miami team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is there a correlation between – year 1 of Manny Diaz and year 1 of Mike Norvell? I mean, there might be. Mm-hmm. I mean, this Florida State team has lost games they should have won, and they've now won a game they should have lost, and that's exactly what Miami did last year. And now you look at FSU, and you look at the foreseeable future, and if you can beat North Carolina, who says you can't beat Louisville, Pittsburgh, or NC State?
Yeah,
I will say this: they absolutely cannot beat Clemson November the 21st. But all of a sudden the rest of the year looks much better, maybe, for the Noles after that victory this weekend. I mean, that was outside of Clemson the toughest game left on their schedule. And I don't know that there's another game that you would say, well, that's just a total mismatch necessarily. Maybe Louisville because of what they do offensively. But, it's a team now that you look and they've won 2 and you say, well, hey, look, it could be a 4 or 5 win team by the end of the year. And that would be a decent start for Mike Norvell.
Yeah, and look, so last week, right? It was last week or 2 weeks ago when Florida State last played, and they were playing Jacksonville State.
Yeah.
And they had an awful first half. They made the quarterback change in the second half. Started him again yesterday or Saturday. Worked out. But it was a tough day for the state of North Carolina because UNC loses this one when they obviously should not have lost. And NC State, who's been maybe the biggest surprise in the ACC, their quarterback, Leary, is a huge part of it, and he's done for, I think, 4 to 6 weeks now.
Yeah, they say 4 to 8.
Okay.
So, but yeah, 4 to
like a nasty-looking injury. So that's a really, really tough break for NC State.
Yeah, well, I think a broken leg, as a matter of fact. No pun intended there either. But and then, you got Tennessee's, dismantling this weekend at the hands of Kentucky, 34-7. Carolina fans clearly frustrated right now because they're going, all right, well, we should have definitely won that game, and they should have, but they lost. Tennessee started the year 0-2, and in reverse order from what happened last year for Jeremy Pruitt, they started the year 0-2, won the next couple. This year they won the first two, lost the next couple. Blown out by Georgia, blown out by Kentucky. Kentucky's offense still wasn't really that good, but Tennessee's was worse.
Awful.
And it allowed Kentucky to score 34 points. I mean, Kentucky only had 294 total yards.
Because they had the ball at the 30 every time they got the ball.
It's remarkable.
So one of my really good friends was in town. He's a diehard Tennessee fan. And as soon as the game started, he started in on Guarantano. He's like, we need him out of the game. Got to get him out of the game. And then there's pick 1. And then there's pick 2. And then there's him and Pruitt fighting on the sidelines. And then there's another pick. Today, Tennessee fires their defensive line coach.
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't the problem.
And let's hold on. Let's stop there. Hold on. Let's stop there, right? All right, because Jimmy Brumbaugh is fired today. And they're paying him $830,000 to go away unless it's mitigated by another job. So if he picks up another opportunity. Him and Jeremy Pruitt have known each other a long time. They're close. And this is the guy who replaced Tracy Rocker, who of course left for South Carolina, who Tracy Rocker, it's not even a question. I mean, he's a former National Recruiter of the Year. He's one of the best defensive line coaches out there.
Thanks.
And here's Brumbaugh, who's I don't know the last time I have seen a defensive line coach canned after only 4 games of their whole tenure.
And you just said Kentucky had less than 300 yards of offense.
Yeah, and I know that they gave up. I think Tennessee gave up 187 rushing yards or something. But that's what Kentucky does.
Right.
Like, that is their strength. They do run the football. So if you hold them under 200, you've actually done a nice job because they have dual threat quarterbacks. That's just how that's what they do under Mark Stoops. I don't, unless Jimmy Brumbaugh was calling plays, or in the head of Jarrett Guarantano, I'm not sure what he had to do with it. That just leads me to believe there's more to this. There's got to be something, right?
There are obviously problems in Knoxville, right? Watching that, seeing. The fan base gets excited, right? They win the opening game. It's a close one. It's a toss-up with South Carolina. They probably shouldn't have won, but they come out and they win the game anyway. And, okay, yeah, we're building off last year's success. And then this stuff starts happening. And then you look that bad. So, it's a sacrificial lamb is what Brumbaugh becomes here. And are there issues behind the scenes? I don't know. But I promise you that there's heat on Pruitt right now. A lot. I mean, there's got to be. He just had a contract extension,
right?
And he's so tied to Guarantano that he left him in there for. I mean, the picks were not. They're bad picks. They weren't. They weren't. They weren't. I mean, great plays. They were like, here, take the ball type picks.
Yeah. Well, to Jarrett Guarantano's credit here, Matt Corral threw 6 of them.
Yep.
For Ole Miss this weekend, and Lane Kiffin tweeted out, "It's not as bad as what my father-in-law did. He threw 8 back in 1969." So Kiffin clearly behind Matt Corral.
He should be
in Oxford, but Guarantano, though, he's a ninth-year senior.
Yes.
Now, when you've been around for 9 years, I'm kidding, obviously, but when he's been around a while,
right.
A long while, yeah, clearly. And they got Bama this weekend. And so the question for me, all right, so are we going to make a quarterback change? All right, so you're going to throw, I'm assuming it'd be Brian Moore, and you're going to throw Moore in there against Bama? Oh, God. But Guarantano last year in that Bama game played well until he called his own number at the end of the game and fumbled it, and Alabama picked it up and ran it back 100 yards to put the game out of reach. But he had actually played fairly well in that game. So I seem to think that he's probably still going to start the game, but they'll see how it goes. But, yeah, this defensive line coach firing is really awkward timing.
It's strange.
Well, because, look, you look at Tennessee now. All right, so you got Bama, and then you got to go to Fayetteville, Arkansas, and before the year, they're going to win that. That's not the case right now.
Mm-mm.
And then you've got A&M. So Tennessee could be looking up at 2-5. And, of course, again, Carolina fans are going, oh, Jesus. There's our opportunity. And then they got Auburn, Vanderbilt, and then Florida at the end of the year. So I don't know. It's interesting. Let me give you a quick snapshot real quick of what's going on around the country, Darren.
Yep.
Because we got the Mountain West coming back this week. We got the Big Ten coming back this week. You got the Pac-12 on the horizon. I think that's 2 weeks away, right? November 7th.
Or November, yeah.
Here's what's going on around the country in college football. If you obviously have kind of maybe only been paying attention to your guys and you haven't been paying attention to what's going on throughout the rest of the nation, you've got in the American, you've got Navy leading the league at 3-0. They're 3-2, but they're 3-0 in the conference. But there's SMU at 2-0, 16th in the country, and 5-0 overall. And Cincinnati at 9th in the nation, 1-0. They've only played one game in the league because of COVID-related issues, and 3-0. So close there at the top. Obviously, it's Clemson at the top, then Notre Dame, who did not look good in a 12-7 win this weekend over Louisville. And I texted Reggie earlier this morning. I said, Reggie, it's Clemson, and then
everyone.
Not even everyone. It's just Clemson, and then Clemson. Whether Clemson beats themselves. Clemson's going to go to Notre Dame and put 40 plus on the board.
We both respect the heck out of Brett McMurphy Stadium, right?
Yeah.
His top 25 is Bama, then Clemson.
Okay, I can see how he got to that, but I don't agree with it.
No.
I don't agree with it. I can see how he got to it. And a lot of those guys that say things like that, and I love Brett McMurphy.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of his.
Respect the heck out of him.
They will begin to put a little bit more emphasis on who the opponent was. In Clemson's case, I put more emphasis on who is Clemson.
Yes.
Okay, that's where I go with this. I don't care who the opponent is right now. Who is Clemson? And they've had one true opponent to really judge who is Clemson, and that's Miami, and we all know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So it's Clemson and then Notre Dame. In the Big 12, you got Iowa State and Kansas State, both at 3-0.
Oklahoma State, too.
Oklahoma State is 2-0. But, of course, they're 3-0 on the season. Now, they've got a little bit of a matchup this weekend with Iowa State. We'll get to that here in a minute. And the Big Ten, everybody's tied because nobody's played. And Conference USA, this is a wonderful story. Marshall is 4-0 and 2-0, ranked 22nd in the country, leading the Eastern Division of the league. You got UAB at 2-0 on the other side. It's still, this Bill Clark story is just still remarkable to me. At UAB, 4-1 overall. So they lead their respective divisions. You got BYU and Liberty, both 5-0, the independent boys. In the Mid-American, they haven't played, of course. Action. And the Mount West will get going this weekend, with the exception of Air Force. They have played that one game. There's only one game that's been played. Pac-12, of course, hasn't played. And then you got the SEC boys, and you got Georgia at 3-1, Florida right behind them at 2-1, and then you got Kentucky, Tennessee, and Carolina all sitting at 2-0. In the West, you got Bama at 4-0 and A&M all of a sudden at 3-1. But remember, Bama beat A&M. Clear winner here so far. And then Auburn at 2-2, and so is Arkansas. And then in the Sun Belt, you've got Coastal leading the East at 2-0 in the top 25. They're 4-0 overall. And then South Alabama out west at 2-2, but just 1-0 in the league. Raging Cajuns is of Lafayette 2-1, but so more than likely they'll probably win that side. But that's what's going on, around the country. And then you got the polls, which they mean something, but they don't mean a ton. The AP boys, of course, say Clemson still 1, Bama 2, Notre Dame 3. And just because they beat Louisville 12-7, that means that Notre Dame's 3. Come on, man.
I honestly, Georgia should still be 3.
Georgia should still be 3.
Yes.
I mean, or I know they haven't played, but I would even go as far as to go ahead and plug Ohio State in at 3.
Right.
To start the year. Isn't that what we do? Isn't that what we do before the year starts? You rank the top 25 and let them go play? I mean, what's different now with Ohio State? It's the week of the damn ball game.
If you're going to rank them anyway, and the AP has, they've been putting the Big Ten in anyway, so I would absolutely put – you can't sit here and tell me right now that what you've seen from Notre Dame, and you haven't seen Ohio State yet, We have no idea how they're going to look and what the COVID impact's going to be. That we think they should be really, really good, really good. But you can't tell me what you see out of Notre Dame. You think that that's a better football team than Ohio State.
I don't think that's
– no way.
I don't think that Notre Dame is a better football team. I mean, somebody correct me if I'm wrong here. I don't think they're better than Ohio State. We haven't seen them play.
Right.
I don't think they're better than Georgia.
Nope.
We've certainly seen them play. I don't think they're better at this point in time. I don't know that they're better than Oklahoma State.
Nope.
I know Oklahoma State started the year and struggled, but they've gotten better, and they're at 6. I mean, if Texas A&M and Notre Dame played today, who would you pick?
A&M.
I think I would too.
And I bet you that the line in that game would be close to a touchdown, maybe even a little more.
What if Florida and Notre Dame played today?
I'd take Florida.
I'd take Florida, and I'm with you. I think 7+, 8 points.
Yeah. I mean, look, I am not on the book train. I don't believe in him, and I don't believe that Notre Dame has the horses. It's another year where Notre Dame comes into the year because they're Notre Dame, and then, they don't look great.
Dude, all right, how about this one? How about a better comparable, because they're not playing, but theoretically they could because temporarily they're in the same league. What if this weekend you had Miami and Notre Dame playing? I would take Miami.
I would too.
I mean, I just, I don't want to beat up on Notre Dame here necessarily, and I know that's exactly what we're doing, but the 27-13 win over Duke, okay, you beat South Florida 52-0, who's not good. A 42-26 win over Florida State, maybe that's more impressive than we thought because Florida State upset North Carolina this weekend. At 12-7, I just don't see them as number 3. They might be a top 10 team, but they're at the bottom of the top 10. But they're undefeated, and that's where they've got them. So Darren, I'm as baffled by that as you are. And then you look ahead, right? And so what do we have with everybody returning to not everybody, but a lot returning to the field this week, more completing college football and what we're used to. Starting on Thursday, you got App State. They got a big game.
Mm-hmm.
Got Arkansas State, and then the Big Ten actually is going to kick off on Friday. With Illinois and Wisconsin on the Big Ten Network.
There's a little rumbling that Illinois might be a player this year. I'll believe that after a few games. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, prove it.
Yeah. Yes, please.
But as far as I know, I think there's only 4 ranked matchups next weekend. And you got 23rd ranked NC State and 14th ranked North Carolina, which now that looks much more in favor of the Tar Heels with NC State's quarterback Devin Leary breaking his leg. So you gotta like the Tar Heels in that ball game. Just a brief look ahead here. You've got 18th ranked Michigan and 21st ranked Minnesota, 7:30 Saturday night on ABC.
That is an interesting game.
It's a very interesting game.
Very interesting.
I mean, who has performed better in this extended preseason with those two teams? I would lean more towards Michigan right now, but the game is being played at Minnesota.
Yeah, and one of Michigan's top receivers, one of the better receivers in the country, I just saw this come across today during the show. He's not playing. I'm not sure if he's opted out or if it's an extended thing, but he's definitely not going this week.
Yeah. I mean, and I think Michigan had less issues as far as it came to practicing than Minnesota did at one time. One time Minnesota was just kind of shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And Michigan continued to work their guys out. Just Jim Harbaugh, he just kept working. And then you got 9th ranked Cincinnati and SMU this weekend. So that's a huge, huge matchup for that league. 9 o'clock on ESPN2 Saturday night. But I'll tell you what, of all the ranked ranks, 17th ranked Iowa State at 6th ranked Oklahoma State at 3:30 on Fox on Saturday.
That's going to be a good one.
There's only 4 ranked ranks, and that's the one I think I look at that one and I go, okay, all right, this is going to be a really good game at Boone Pickens Stadium.
Yeah, and that's going to be the first separator of the Big 12, right? I mean, that's going to be the first someone's going to have a leg up at the top of the standing.
We said, or I said, and if I recall correctly, I think you agreed with this. I don't want to say we because I don't want to put words in your mouth here, but a couple of weeks ago, I said the Big 12 is out. They don't have a prayer.
we
college
agreed.
Football playoff. Okay, do you still agree with that?
No, because last week I pointed out again. Well, remember, Oklahoma State.
They haven't lost.
They haven't lost. They're still thought highly of. So, I think the odds. It's a tougher road for the Big 12 because of the national publicity they got stinking up the joint on the opening weekend.
Yeah.
So it's a tougher road, but they're not dead yet.
Okay.
Not yet.
Okay. All right. Look, I mean, Oklahoma State, I still think they're going to lose a game or two this year. They have to go to Oklahoma
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care how bad Oklahoma's played at times. They're still capable of beating anybody.
Yep.
Especially in that league. They still have Texas. Obviously, this game this weekend, they got to go to Kansas State. I mean, it's not an easy road for Oklahoma State. But if they get through it all, yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. I mean, they have every right to be in that conversation to get into the college football playoff. We'll see. All right, real quick here, some NFL nuggets before we get to Reggie Merriweather, and we'll talk about Clemson and what they did this weekend and what it looks like moving forward. How about Tua? Got on the field this weekend in the NFL. First time. Did you see the photo of him sitting in the field?
Loved it.
Was he on the 15-yard line afterwards, just kind of taking it all in?
I don't remember what yard line he was on, but fully padded, game over, sitting there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dolphins win the game 24-0. The Jets are so bad. They might be truly tanking for Trevor. But Tua threw 2 passes, completed both, 9 yards for his his only action of his career. But Fitzpatrick, he's done a nice job. So keep an eye on that. But obviously he gets in there. You got a couple Monday Night Football games tonight. If you want to watch some Monday Night Football. No baseball tonight, obviously. Chiefs, Bills at 5 o'clock on Fox and on the NFL Network. And then ESPN's got, of course, Monday Night Football regularly scheduled, 8:15, the Cardinals and the Cowboys. Elsewhere around the league, how about those Tennessee Titans? They're still undefeated. 42-36, the final score this weekend.
So Derrick Henry is the first player in NFL history with a 200-yard rushing game in 3 straight seasons.
You're kidding me.
Nope. Saw that today.
You're kidding me.
Nope.
Walter Payton never did that?
Guess not. 3 straight seasons.
No Barry Sanders?
200 yards that doesn't happen very often.
No, I know, but these guys could get 200 yards quickly. I mean, wow.
Derrick Henry, you should not be that big and that fast.
22 carries for 212 yards and 2 touchdowns this weekend. The Falcons are 1-5, and I'm sure Falcons fans are frustrated because that one win might put them behind the 8 ball to get Trevor Lawrence. But they beat the Vikings. So, hey, there you go. You're off the schneid. Congratulations. You probably still have a pretty good shot to get Lawrence. The Ravens, they beat the Eagles this weekend. That's their 5th win of the year as well.
Almost choked it away.
Almost coughed it up.
Close.
Eagles put 22 on the board in the 4th quarter. Couldn't get it done. Steelers still undefeated. They demolished Cleveland. 38-7 was not close at all. How about the Bears? 5-1. They come into Charlotte and win one there over the Carolina Panthers. And the Bucks, over the Packers, give them their first loss of the year, and it wasn't even over the Packers. They dominated. Brady went through for 166, but Tampa just controlled that one. 28 points in the 2nd quarter.
Yeah, Green Bay goes up 10-0. Aaron Rodgers does some stupid dance in the end zone, and then Aaron Rodgers does nothing for the rest of the day, and the Bucks steamroll.
It was 28-10 at halftime, 38-10 after the 3rd, and over. And then out west, the Niners, 3 in a row now over the Rams. The 24-16, the difference in the game, Deebo Samuel with a big touchdown for the San Francisco 49ers. So there you go.
You left one out. In the NFC East, the worst division in the history of pro football.
I'm not giving any more Washington scores.
Score a touchdown with, what was left on? 14 seconds, 16 seconds, go for 2. Because Ron Rivera right now is coaching like he just doesn't care, which is cool. I'm okay with that. They missed the 2-point conversion, lose 20-19. Cover, though. They were 1.5-point dogs. They lost by 1.
Yeah. Okay. Is that it?
Well, now
can we move on?
We're still in the running for Trevor.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sure that's where he wants to go. And get sacked every other play.
Better than the Jets.
Yeah, that's true. Trevor, you get a free year, man. Opt back in. Stay at Clemson one more year. All right, DB's Cheesesteaks is the best in Avondale, in West Ashley. The tastiest, juiciest cheesesteak in all of the world, I promise you. DB'scheesesteaks.com. You voted them Charleston's Choice. #1, they deliver every delivery app out there. Don't forget the Boardwalk Fries and try my personal favorite, the Buffalo Chicken Cheesesteak at DB's Cheesesteaks in Avondale. All right, when we return, Reggie Merriweather, he'll join us from the upstate. We also have breaking news from Baton Rouge as this pertains to the Gamecocks in LSU. We'll give you that information when we return on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
Is your old car really scary? Does it look dreadful or smell awful? Don't be frightened. There's never been a better time to trade in your spooky old car. Stokes Volkswagen just received a new shipment of the VW Atlas and VW Crossport. But here's what makes that even sweeter. Every new Atlas and Crossport is $3,000 off MSRP. Plus, every 2020 Volkswagen is available with 0% financing. That's right, you get both the huge discount and 0% financing. So if you want to play trick or treat at other dealerships, that's okay. Come see us at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or visit stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Plus tax tag includes $399.50 closing fee. Offer subject to lender approval. Expires month end.
The best cheesesteak in Charleston is at DB's Cheesesteaks. JB here. We say it every day, and we mean it. You voted for them. Let DB's Cheesesteaks in Avondale and West Ashley feed your family this football season. Use your favorite delivery app. Have them dropped off before your favorite game. And don't forget the boardwalk fries. They come with the Old Bay seasoning. DB'sCheesesteaks.com for the full menu. Hoagies, hot dogs, burgers, and more. DB's Cheesesteaks, the best cheesesteak in Charleston, the best cheesesteak for football.
Hey guys, it's Darren, just here to tell you about our good friends over at Dog and Duck. They've got 3 locations, one in Bell Hall, one in Park West, and one, the new one, out on Clements Ferry. I can tell you from personal experience, it's the only restaurant in town that I've been to since this whole place has reopened. Everything is socially distant, very comfortable, and to top it all off, great selection of rotating craft beers, food specials every day, family meals. If you don't want to go in, you can order it and have some curbside pickup as well. Dog and Duck, 3 locations, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
Now, hear this.
Who the hell is that? The JB and Goldwater Show. Live, loud, and online.
All right, 136, final segment on a Monday afternoon, the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. All right, real quick before we get to Reggie Merriweather, this is news pertaining to LSU and South Carolina. Ed Orgeron, moments ago, in his Monday afternoon press conference, says that Miles Brennan has a, quote, significant lower body issue, and, quote, I don't know if he's going to be able to play in the game this weekend against South Carolina. So he is questionable right now at best, according to Ed Orgeron. But we'll see. We'll see what that means. You know, guys like Will Muschamp use tactics like this a lot to make defenses prepare for a little bit more. Obviously, that would pertain here if it's true or not true. But we'll see what that means. But right now, Miles Brennan questionable at best to play against South Carolina Saturday night in Baton Rouge. All right, into the upstate we go, and that's where we find out for everybody's friend. One of the best smiles on planet Earth, Reggie Merriweather, the former tailback of the Clemson Tigers. He currently roams the, stadium now. I don't think he's allowed on the sidelines yet, but this weekend, Clemson 73-7, the final score against Georgia Tech. They continue to be, look, and act like number one. Hey, Reggie.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on again, man.
Look, the biggest question here is why did they give up 7 points in the first quarter, and how did Trevor throw 8 incompletions?
I'll tell you what, that's a great question. This is probably the best game from a standpoint of play calling that we've seen since obviously everybody got in on the action. You know, even the punter who is Will Spires. But yeah, I mean, I just think it was a great game plan they had coming in, and you know, a really good call of the game by Tony Elliott. And you know, what more can we say about Brent Venables and what he's been able to do with this young defensive line and this young defense? You know, you think about the big plays that they've given up these last few weeks. It's been very few, but then again, too, you know, people are studying us just like we study them, and you know, we've had several big plays that the you know, offense has got on this defense, but they're continuing to learn and get better every week. And you know, like I said, the proof is in the pudding as far as the score. So, just exciting to see this team play, and excited to see what they're going to do next.
This is remarkable, Darren. 17 players caught a pass for Clemson this weekend,
and a punter played quarterback.
I know. I mean, and they had, and I think if my math was correct, I think they had 10 guys who actually had carries in the football game. That includes Niles Pinckney, who rumbled into the end zone. It's hard to find pertinent conversations when you beat teams by 66 points, at least from a media perspective. I would venture a guess, as disciplined as they are up there, the staff at Clemson with their players, they're probably focused on things this week like Etienne's lost fumble and Jalen Camp's 59-yard catch for the touchdown, and all that other stuff is great, right? But when you beat a team by 66 points, when this game it was over at halftime. It was 52-7 at halftime. How do you manage the second half to continue to get your players to learn more about themselves, to continue to be engaged in the game, to continue to get better when it would be so easy just to check out and be lazy for the final 30 minutes?
Well, that's an easy answer there.
Okay.
Dabo Swinney. He is a guy who will take anything, whether it be a press clipping or something in the paper or on the internet or whatever, and got to turn it into his favor. Nothing is a problem. It's just an opportunity to get better. And once you start seeing that from, a player standpoint, always having to, look up to something, watch film and get better, and that's what they continue to do. I mean, they gave up a few big plays the first couple games. Then they turn around, they settle down and started to shut people down. And I think that's what you look at this coaching staff over the last 6-7 years, and that's what they've been great at, right? Been great at putting 2 and 2 together and holding people accountable and winning football games. Whether it's a Georgia Tech or a Syracuse or Alabama or whoever, they prepare all their games the same way, and they just continue to get better and continue to dominate. But yeah, that's an easy question to answer, just because that Dabo is a guy who he doesn't overlook anybody, and and with Syracuse coming in here and coming off that loss this weekend, it's another team that he's going to look at closely as well too. Him and Babers get along very well and very, very much respected, and somehow, some way, they always have a close ball game in Clemson.
Last year there was 10 games of the Tigers 15 where they scored over 40 points, and I think, if my memory serves me correct, I think 6 of them they scored over 50. And when you look at this year's group here, I think you look at the scores. If somebody hasn't watched them play every game, and 37, 49, 41, 50, 42, 73, you look at that and you look at last year and say, well, what I'm about to say might not be true. But we have to remember that they play a ton of guys, just like Reggie just said. Do you think that this is the best offense in the history of this program? I mean, last year's might have been the best we'd ever seen. Is this one better than that one?
That is a great question, and I think if this team makes it to the championship, I think we could check that off the box if they win it. Obviously it's different, different year, different guys. There's no T. Higgins, there's no Ross.
Yeah.
You still got Travis, you still got some of those great offensive linemen. Of course, we got Trevor, but to check that box off, you have to beat some really good teams, which would be Notre Dame, Ohio State, Alabama, that type,
sure.
To get that recognition. But obviously, again, you saw a lot of young guys start to come on at the end of that game. Joe with the screen pass touchdown, which was awesome to see him kind of film himself and get that touchdown there at the end there. Latson again, one of the biggest drops in the ball game he had on the first play, and it's just a bunch of film to watch, and you got a bunch of guys out there that are young that are continuing to prove themselves every week. And like I said, I'm just excited to see these guys grow, and I think that's one of the biggest things that some people might overlook I mean, you only have 3 or 4 years with some of these guys, and to watch them come in as a true freshman or freshman and make those mistakes, but then turn around and get better. I think that's one of the things that are overlooked. And so, obviously, you take Alabama, right, who guys leave every year, but they continue to plug these people, these Jimmys and Joes into the machine, and it continues to run. So I can see Clemson on that note now with Brent Venables as the defensive coordinator, continuing to have some of the greatest play calls. I mean, again, he was blitzing people from every which way, every play. But just to see this young, defensive line get after it, and watch some of these young players kind of come into their own there in this game was really amazing. And like I said, every week I pose the question, it's like, hey, what is this team going to do next? You know what I mean? And not to say that the ACC is down this year, because it has great quarterback play. You look at Florida State beating North Carolina, and then some of the numbers that Louisville's been able to put up this season too. So we got some good quarterback play, some good teams. It's just it's kind of Clemson on their own, continuing to figure out their identity. Travis didn't even have 100 yards rushing this game. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of stuff that teams continue to do to shut Clemson down, but yet they have great play calling and great coaching to be able to open up other avenues and win football games. So, like I said, it's exciting to watch them play every week and just get better as a complete unit.
Yeah, and that's why I asked that question. Because you pointed out. I mean, you got some guys, obviously some studs, just not there anymore. But I think that's one of the things that actually has made this offense even more lethal. Is the fact that you never really know where it's coming from.
Yep.
And Travis had I think 44 yards this weekend, but you never know where it's coming from, and different players are being challenged to do different things. And obviously, the great equalizer in all this, or the biggest factor in all this, is Trevor Lawrence, who is the best quarterback in the country, and he will be the number 1 pick, and he more than likely at this point is going to win the Heisman Trophy. Yeah, it's been remarkable. And you talk about the defense. They already have 23 sacks this year, and it seems to me, Reggie, like that Miami game was a perfect opportunity for Brent Venables to turn it up a notch. Like, they were really aggressive. They were really aggressive yesterday. Is that what we're going to see moving forward? Like, okay, they've kind of found their feet. They've found their footing. From here on out, we're going to be that Clemson defense that we've built ourselves around the last 4 or 5 years. We're just going to come right after you.
Well, I tell you what, that's another great question too, because obviously, a lot of teams that we face have really good running quarterbacks, and obviously really good running backs as well. But it's kind of one of those things where you stack the box and say, hey, you're not going to – and just like what they've been doing against, Clemson. Hey, we're going to stack the box. We're going to bring the safeties down, and we're going to dare you to beat us with your arm. Travis Etienne is not going to have a career day. You know what I mean? He's not going to put up, 17 carries for 290 on us, right? We're going to have to play some football. So it's like I said, it's been exciting to just see the talent, man. Again, you've got one avenue that's been kind of shut down, but yet you have 4 or 5 other guys that have kind of picked up their talent level as well to come to play. So you start looking at statistics, and I think Dabo said this a couple of weeks ago about guys having individual accolades, right? Whoever wins the Heisman, but that's not going to define this team, and we're not going to give Travis, 25 carries a game so he could be considered a Heisman Trophy winner. We're going to go out there, we're going to, play our game and, let the chips fall where they lay. So, I mean, I think that's a really tells a willing testament of his team and his coaching staff, to kind of set guys up for success. And, whether they stack the box or not, we're going to continue to play our game and, get his carries when he can and, just continue to run the offense and be balanced. So, like I said, again, you got some young guys that haven't even really touched the field yet. And then to watch them, like you said, get out there this next week is a home game to probably watch another, 20 guys you didn't see last week get on the field and produce is going to be really special. So, it's kind of kind of awe-inspiring too, man. Like you said again, just watching the young guys, make plays, and Latson again continues to get better every week. I mean, he has some great catches, but also has some drops too. So he's gonna get better, and like I said, the coaching staff is very high on him, and he's got a lot of big shoes to fill with taking up for Aaron Ross there.
Yeah, Reggie Merriweather here at 1:49 on this Monday afternoon, Reggie. Yeah, and here's the thing with this game with Georgia Tech too, right? So they scored 46 points last week against Louisville, and they beat them by almost 20. And, this is a team that beat Florida State. Florida State beat North Carolina this weekend. I don't know what any of that means. I mean, it's a wacky year in college football. But Georgia Tech was not a team that came into the game. I didn't personally. I mean, I certainly didn't think this game would be close, but not 66 points difference. I think that they've done enough to be a respectable football program, and the Sims kid, I like him. I think he's going to be really good in the future. And and Clemson, I mean, this was just a mess. I mean, they could have scored more than that. I mean, this was a nightmare. And so now you got to go play Syracuse this week, and Syracuse is really. Have you seen the line? They're 45-point favorites in this game.
They just beat someone by 66.
I mean, I.
By the way, take Clemson.
Right? I mean, every time we see these, Reggie, every single time we see these big lines. Syracuse just lost to Liberty by 38 to 21 was the final score. All right. They also lost to Duke, who's not off to a good start. Every time we see these big numbers, Clemson's a 30-point favorite, a 40-point favorite. The common trend or the thinking is, oh God, you don't go with a big number like that. And then they fly by it. I know this is not a betting segment here. My point is this football team continues to exceed expectations no matter what those expectations are. It's remarkable.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, again, I think this was one of the best ball games, right? The two coordinators themselves have ever called. And that's just a simple fact that you had, again, Travis with, I think he had like 14 or 15 carries and didn't even hit 100 yards, but yet they were able to open up the offense right there with several big plays before the halftime and go up 49, and so we had questions about the second team offensive line and the backup quarterbacks and all that type stuff, but yet they were able to put up points on this. I mean, Georgia Tech is a good team. Again, they balled out the last couple of weeks. I think they averaged like 500 yards of offense, and Brent Venables held them to, under, I think he had like 13 first downs, 14 first downs, something like that. So it says a lot. It says a lot about this coaching staff and this team. And like I said, again, it's really spectacular to watch them every week and see what the play calls and stuff are going to be. And like I said, it's just exciting to watch this team and these young guys play hard every week and get a W.
Reggie, there were a couple of plays in the game where I thought to myself, wow, you're showing that? I mean, plays that – offensively, I hadn't seen yet, and I was surprised they broke it out against Georgia Tech. I mean, why not save some of those instead of putting them on film? Did I see that the right way?
Yeah, I think you did. And like you said, again, we talk about vanilla play calling all the time, and why not? Why not unleash it in a game like this, and have other teams. Prepare for something else. But again, I you start putting two and two together. I don't think anything of it, because again, you have so much more stuff out there that I thought we saw a throwback to the tight end screen in that first game. I think we had a couple of trick plays in this one, but I'm sure there's more in the bag. I'm sure there's more in the bag. So I'm just happy that, they were able to get a couple new quarterbacks in there. That second team line, again, was able to show a little something, and that they played well.
Absolutely. I almost think that they show some of that stuff to keep themselves fresh on it in case they ever need it. Because right now, vanilla play calling works just fine for Clemson.
Well, yeah.
You got to be able to stop them. As Reggie always says, it's the Jimmies and Joes, and nobody right now has anybody in the J category of the names. They're still down there in like the Abes and the Adams. There's no Jimmies and Joes that match up. All right, we'll let you run on that note, Reggie. Before we do, elsewhere around the ACC. We all know about Florida State and North Carolina, but outside of that, anything else that caught your eye that might be pertinent to Clemson's success as the year continues to move forward?
Well, I know we keep talking about, Louisville and how they were supposed to be this great team this year. I mean, they held Notre Dame to 12 points. They won a game 7-12, and a really good Notre Dame team with Ian Book at the helm. So, that's got either some question marks beside it or, some asterisks. We don't know. I didn't watch the whole game, but I just saw the box score. So I'm going to go back and watch that game. But, man, I think Notre Dame may end up with a couple of L's in the category before this year is done. I mean, obviously they play Pitt this weekend, and they're favored, but they play Pitt at home, and then we play them on the 7th, and then they turn around and play North Carolina, and I think Georgia Tech is in there somewhere too. So, before it's all said and done, they could possibly have 3 losses in their category in the little ACC. Like I said, I'm excited. Just some great football alone, and hats off to South Carolina beating Auburn this week. Beating a ranked team, so that saved somebody's job. But you start looking at football in general this weekend, man. It's a really good weekend for football. Really good weekend.
Mountain West, Big Ten back this week as well. Reggie, enjoy it all. I know that Notre Dame will definitely have one loss on their schedule this year. That's coming in early November up there in South Bend when the Tigers make the trip to town. But we got a ways to go before that. Clemson's got to play a couple other games, and first and foremost is this weekend at noon against Syracuse. Reggie will be on the air starting at 9 o'clock that morning, so Tiger fans tune in. Hey, man, thank you so much as always, brother. Have a wonderful week up there.
Hey, man, appreciate you guys. Go Tigers.
Yes, sir. There you go. Reggie Merriweather, former tailback of the Clemson Tigers. All right, other news in case you missed it today. Doc Emmerich has hung it up as the voice of hockey. Wow, 47 years covering professional hockey, called more than 3,750 games, 22 Stanley Cups, 19 NHL Winter Classic Stadium Series games, 14 All-Star games, part of the Olympic Winter Games. He started in this sport about 50 years ago. Maybe the best play-by-play guy in the history of sports.
That is a fair statement to make, and that is a gigantic statement to make, and it's a fair one. There's a reason why over these last couple of years he's won the Emmy for the best play-by-play announcer. I'm not sure who won it this past year, but he had a run of many in a row. Look, everyone knows how good he is. I mean, when you turn on a game that Doc is calling, it's like poetry. His mastering of the English language, he is the greatest wordsmith I have ever heard or seen call a game. There was someone charted once a Doc Emmerich game, and they went through every single verb he used to describe pass. You know what he didn't say in the entire game? Pass. Not once. A lot of people know how good he is, and he's fantastic. What a lot of people don't know is he is as good, if not even better of a person. I have had the opportunity to meet him. He's one of those guys where he's not too big for anyone. If you're a high schooler wanting to get into the business, you can email him, and he's going to get back to you. And I'm not exaggerating. That's who he is. He's one of the hardest workers. He would get to the ice early for the skate, and then he would hang around. I mean, the conversations, he just wanted to be all around it. So the work that went on behind the scenes, the fact that he is the type of person that he is, I mean, man, hat tip to you, Doc, because Hall of Fame career, and it's going to be tough for anyone to ever do it like he did.
Yeah, and go watch that 5-minute video on him, his retirement announcement.
Yeah.
It is. Whew,
yeah,
that's the goosies.
Yeah.
If you believe in stuff like that. All right, real quick here. Big Ten administrators agreed coaches who test positive for COVID-19 will self-isolate for 10 days. It's 21 days for players. PCR tests are used to confirm daily antigen positive test results. That is from Heather Dinich with ESPN. Again, the news out of Baton Rouge, Miles Brennan questionable at best for the South Carolina game this week. Right now, LSU 6.5-point favorites in that ball game. We'll see if that adjusts based on that news moving forward.
And the Big Ten, there's notable news that for the coaches because Jeff Brom has tested positive, so he will not be there for Purdue's first game.
That's right. I think his brother's going to be calling the plays this weekend.
Yes.
Real quick, what day is today? Real quick. It is National Clean Your Virtual Desktop Day. That means get all that crap out of there.
Dude, I need to do that.
It is National Seafood Bisque Day.
All right.
And drink some bourbon. It's National Kentucky Day. So all your friends up there in the great state of Kentucky, congratulations. Celebrate in style. I'm sure you will.
There you go.
HolyCityDrive-In.com for the Holy City Drive-In movie series at Patriots Point. Check it out. HolyCityDrive-In.com for tickets, movie showtimes, and more. Thanks to Reggie. Thanks to Wes. Thanks to Darren. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening to our program today.
Thank you.
Hope you have a wonderful, marvelous Monday afternoon. And we're back tomorrow at noon. Perry Orr tomorrow, Will Muschamp tomorrow in the press conference, and much, much more as we get prepared for another huge weekend of college football. JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. Have a great day. We'll see you then.